Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Patrick Dang here. Now in this video, we're gonna talk all things inbound closing. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably have heard of inbound closing before, and you might have questions like, what exactly is it? How does it work? And what's the difference between inbound closing and high ticket sales, and how much money you can actually make from being an inbound closer? So stick around because we're gonna get all your questions answered in this video. Now, before we go ahead and get started, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you wanna see more sales training videos like this. Now, the first thing we're gonna do is we want to define exactly what inbound sales and inbound closing is and really see the difference between inbound and outbound sales, right? Because they're two totally different things. I'll start with outbound first. Now, outbound sales is essentially what it sounds like. When you are reaching out to another person, you are reaching out, hence the word outbound. And when you're doing outbound sales, that typically involves a lot of cold emailing, cold calling, or sending messages on LinkedIn. And you're trying to find people that pretty much have no idea who you are, they don't know what you offer, and you are just, sending them a nice message to see if they want to take a meeting with you to learn more about how you might be able to help them, right? So that's outbound. Let's go ahead and put it on this side. Now let's go ahead and talk about inbound so you know the differences between the two. Now, inbound sales or inbound closing is essentially when, let's say, the marketing team of a company generates a lead. And this can be done with, let's say, an advertisement, let's say a YouTube ad or a Facebook ad, a Google ad, or maybe they wrote a blog, or maybe they created a YouTube video. And then at the end of that piece of content, whether it's a blog or a video or an ad, they're asking the person to say, hey, if you're interested in learning more, go ahead and schedule a time to talk to one of our specialists. And this is essentially how an inbound lead is created. And this is very different from outbound, because outbound, you're just reaching out to someone asking for a meeting. Inbound, you're creating some type of content and getting it out there, and people, if they like it, they're gonna come to you. And that's why it's called inbound, right? It's coming to the company. Now, when a lead comes into the company, it's a lot more warm in that the person already kind of knows who this company is, and they want to talk to somebody to learn more about their products and services. And this is exactly where an inbound salesperson or inbound closer comes in. So typically what might happen is a company runs an ad, they get a lead, the person wants to talk to a person, and then that inbound closer or inbound sales rep will be that person that the customer or prospect is going to talk to. And within that process, the inbound closer, their job is to understand the customer, know what their challenges are, and try to see whether or not they should sell their products and services to this customer. And an inbound closer essentially closes the deal. Now, the key difference, I'll iterate this, is that inbound closing essentially is a lot easier because you're working with warm leads, people who are already interested in your products and services. All you have to do is pretty much take their order and close the deal. Outbound, much more difficult because you're constantly having to reach out to people who have no idea who you are. Now that you understand the difference between inbound and outbound sales, let's go ahead and talk about inbound closing compared to high ticket sales or high ticket closing. Now, high ticket sales can also be the same as inbound closing, right? Some people might be able to even use these words interchangeably, but there's a key difference here. So usually for high ticket sales, you're selling something, somewhat more expensive where it's worth it to get a salesperson on the phone. So you might be selling something that's like $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000 to a customer, right? So that's why it's called high ticket sales. Now, when you're doing high ticket sales, you can do outbound, meaning you can reach out to people and see if they want to buy. It's still considered high ticket because it's all about the price point. But you could also do high ticket sales in an inbound way, where if a company already has leads and they're coming in, a high ticket closer might be the person who just closes those deals. And you can kind of see that an inbound closer does exactly the same thing, where if a lead comes into a company, an inbound closer will just hop on the phone, talk to the person, and close the deal. So high ticket closing and inbound closing can be the exact same thing. The only difference is that a high ticket closer, they can either do inbound or outbound. When you're deciding on working with a company, you got to see whether or not you have to do outbound or inbound and see which one you actually prefer. Now, the next step to understand is what exactly is the day-to-day of an inbound closer. Now, for an inbound closer, typically you're gonna spend a lot of time on your computer and on the phone. And all that really means is on the computer, you essentially have a list of leads or a list of emails, or it might be people you might have to contact on LinkedIn or Facebook and you reach out to them, they might be already somewhat warm, and you say, hey, you know, I saw you downloaded the PDF, or I saw you read this blog post, or blah, 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 and you know, just wanna see if you wanna hop on the phone to talk about some of your challenges to see if I can help you, right? That's just one possible script that an inbound closer might have. And all they do all day is find all these warm leads that the company already has, reach out to them and schedule meetings, get on the phone and try to sell. Now that's when, you know, the company doesn't have a process to generate the meetings right off the bat. They just may have the warm leads, but not a system to book a meeting. And that's why the inbound closer has to manually go out and find these people and then try to get on the phone. Now, if the company has a good inbound process and they have a system to actually turn that lead into a meeting and that person just schedules a meeting, the inbound closer might just show up to the meeting and just be like, hey John, what's going on? It's Patrick. And then they just, you know, have that selling process happen right there. So in that situation, that inbound closer doesn't have to reach out to any warm leads. Their calendar is already just booked with meetings, and all they do is just meeting after meeting after meeting and, you know, try to sell. And, you know, they're gonna ask questions, they're gonna do pitching and all these things, and if the person doesn't buy on the first call, they have to have a follow-up process to make sure the customer is comfortable with moving forward with the deal. And that's pretty much what the day-to-day is like. Now, the next thing we're gonna cover is who exactly is hiring inbound closers and how much money can you actually make. Now, when it comes to inbound closing, I kind of categorize it as like two different type of companies you can work at. The first one is you might be working at a company that's a lot more established, let's say like a Salesforce, an Oracle, Microsoft, or even startup with funding, right? So they might offer you a base salary, and they might also offer you commission based on what deals you are closing. So a hypothetical example could be a 50-50 split. So if they want you to earn 100K per year, they might say, all right, Patrick, you're gonna get paid 50K a year as a base salary no matter what you close. And then if you hit 100% of your goals, then you can actually make, you know, another 50K, and then that would be a total of 100K per year. And if you can sell more than what we expect, you can make more than 100K per year, right? So this is, you know, a nice safe middle ground where you get a salary and you know that you can live, and at the same time, if you perform well, you get that commission. Now, other companies who may not want to pay a base salary because, you know, maybe they can't afford it, maybe they can't take the risk, and they only want to pay based on commission, which can actually motivate salespeople a lot more. You know, they might have a 100% commission structure where they might give you some meetings and you can only make money if you close these deals. Now, obviously, this is a lot more scary for some people because maybe they're not confident that they can actually get the job done. If they don't sell anything, then they don't make any money, right? That's essentially a two type of companies you can work at. But the one cool thing about inbound closing is that if you kind of already know what you're doing, or, you know, the company you want to work at has some kind of sales training process, you might be able to work 100% at home. So, you know, this can be a remote job because you only really need a laptop and a phone, and that's pretty much it. And you just take calls, follow up with people, and just close deals. So if you can do that all from home and you don't need too much guidance, then this could actually be a pretty good career path where you're making a good amount of money just sitting at home and taking calls. Now, in the beginning, if you don't have any skills and you don't have those sales skills to actually turn a prospect into a customer, you know, in the beginning, it might be really hard, especially if you are on commission only. But once you understand, you know, a company's sales process, you know how to pitch their products and services, you know exactly how to move the customer from, you know, prospect to customer, then it becomes a lot more easier and routine. But I would say maybe the first year or two, it does take time to actually learn the art and science of sales. But once you get it, you know, you got that skill for life. So an important thing when it comes to, you know, choosing where you want to work at and what opportunities to pursue when it comes to inbound closing or high ticket sales, you really want to ask the company that you're thinking about working at, you know, what is the average rep making? You know, how much money on average is the average salesperson making? So you kind of get a ballpark idea of how much you can be making. Then I would take it a step further and ask, okay, well, this is the average. Well, how much is the top rep making, right? Because if you believe that you can also be at the top, then you want to know your maximum potential. And so if you feel comfortable with what the average person is making and you feel aspirational in that you feel confident if you do a good good job, you feel comfortable that you can make whatever the top rep is making, and that seems like a good opportunity. If you like the product or service this person sells, you like the company, then that would probably be a good fit to apply for a job as an inbound closer. But you just wanna make sure that if you wanna do inbound closing and not outbound, you wanna look at the job description to make sure that they have leads coming in, and it's a lot easier to have those meetings. So all you have to do is get on the phone. But if they're saying that you have to generate your own leads, then you might even spend like half your time generating outbound, sending emails and cold calling and LinkedIn messages, and then half your time actually closing. So really make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, whether it's inbound or outbound. And so with that said, that is pretty much inbound closing in a nutshell. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications because I'm gonna be dropping new videos every single week. And now if you're interested in learning more about high ticket sales or high ticket closing, make sure you check out my other videos somewhere on this screen. So with that said, my name is Patrick Day. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.